Thousands across Brazil demand President Bolsonaro's impeachment. Uruguay strikes a deal for Pfizer and Sinovac vaccines. And the Dutch government implements a nightly curfew to stop the spread of COVID-19. Hello and welcome to teleSUR. I'm Jose Daniel Lopez in Quito, Ecuador, and this is From the South. We start in Brazil, where hundreds of people have driven through Rio de Janeiro to demand the impeachment of President Jair Bolsonaro over his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Protesters blame President Bolsonaro for the resurgence in cases that seen the death toll surpass 400,000, the second highest in the world. People are also accusing the federal government of mismanagement in the import and distribution of vaccines and are condemning them for the oxygen crisis that has affected patients' treatment in the Amazonian capital city of Manaus. Similar protests took place in several major cities across the country.
There was no oxygen. Patients had to receive morphine to not feel losing their breath, but there was no shortage of chloroquine. That's why we are here today, a movement of political renovation, on a united front, with people that think differently, demanding the impeachment of Jair Bolsonaro.
The country is saying that with Bolsonaro we can't have health or vaccines. Only by getting Bolsonaro out of the government will we be able to ask for basic things.
Brazil received 2 million doses of the AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine from India on Friday. The jab was developed by AstraZeneca and the University of Oxford. It was flown to Rio de Janeiro, where the state-run Fiocruz Institute is based. Fiocruz has an agreement to produce and distribute the vaccine. However, experts have warned that the shipment will do little to tackle an insufficient supply in the nation of 210 million people. This is contrary to a recent statement by President Jair Bolsonaro, who said that there will be enough vaccines for a proper immunization campaign.
These 2 million doses are just the beginning. It's only the beginning of the process. We are negotiating more doses in early February, and the active pharmaceutical ingredient needed for Fiocruz to start producing up to 15 million doses per month. These imported doses are to start the process, but the national production with the Fiocruz in Bogota, and probably in a private company for the production of the Sputnik vaccine, which is being negotiated, which allows to have mass production.
Uruguay has struck a deal for Pfizer and Sinovac vaccines, according to President Luis Lacalle Pou. The president added that the negotiations with the other vaccine makers are also underway. Uruguay has been one of the least affected by the coronavirus in Latin America, registering about 36,000 cases and 364 deaths in total since the beginning of the pandemic.
The agreement with Pfizer Biotech and Sinovac consists of 2 million doses from the first laboratory and 1,750,000 doses from the second. The arrival of the Pfizer Biotech vaccines should be around March, but we are not ruling out the possibility that it could be around the end of February. The same goes for the Sinovac vaccine. We are still negotiating with 3 other laboratories and hope to have news soon. The government's aspiration is to have vaccines for 2.8 million people.
The Colombian capital, Bogota, has re-entered a full lockdown this weekend for the 3rd time in a row. This means that all the non-essential shops are closed from Friday at 8 p.m. until Monday at 4 a.m. The restrictions include a ban on alcohol sales in supermarkets and stores during the same hours as well. Colombia has suffered a total of 50,000 deaths from COVID-19 since the pandemic began, with a recent increase in cases putting hospitals under severe strain. The University of West Indies is investigating reports of the production of fake undergraduate and postgraduate degrees, which appear to be issued by the institution. The scheme is reportedly taking place in Jamaica, where the Mona campus is located. In light of the development, the university assured that all of its certificates have security features which help to guarantee authenticity. Furthermore, it urged employers and other educational facilities that have concerns about the legitimacy of the documents to contact the examination sections for verification or report the matter to the fraud squad of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. In Trinidad and Tobago, both sides of the political divide are mourning the death of a former government minister who passed away on Friday. Clifton Dicoto, who served as an educator for many years, collapsed on the floor outside his home after completing his daily routine of reading a newspaper. Dicoto was a former minister of National Diversity and Social Integration, Gender, Youth and Child Development. He had been battling health issues since 2013. In Chile, social movements were violently repressed by the police during a fresh day of protest to demand the release of those detained during the social unrest of October 2019. The demonstrators who gathered in Baquedano Square were surrounded by the police, who sprayed them with water cannons. One of the protesters was reported to be in a serious condition after having been directly hit by the pressurized jet of water from one of the police trucks and falling headfirst onto a sidewalk. At the same time, many protesters report burns after being sprayed with guanaco, a chemical of unknown composition that is mixed with the water from the trucks. We'll take a short break now. Join us again in a minute. Welcome back. The President of Venezuela's Supreme Court of Justice, Michael Moreno, has denounced the U.S. government's strategy of stripping the country of its assets held abroad.
This court cannot fail to denounce the theft of our company, Citgo, which is intended to be materialized through legal channels. This maneuver, initiated by subversive and illegitimate actors, deserves the repudiation of the entire body of jurists and of the highest judicial authorities worldwide. It is evident that the intention behind all this is to continue stealing the country's assets. Therefore, we alert the world to this new strategy of dispossession promoted by foreign actors and used by the United States judicial bodies that violate commercial law and legal security, as well as the principle of legitimacy to which all legal actions are subject.
Moreno also called on Guyana to put dialogue and peace first in addressing the border dispute with Venezuela regarding the Essequibo territory, stressing the importance of avoiding a regional conflict.
Let us not allow the Essequibo to become an excuse for the elites to provoke an escalation of violence between South American brothers, or let the peace and stability of the region be threatened. We are a peaceful nation, but protective of our sovereignty, aware of the leading role that corresponds to us in the defense of the rights over the Essequibo territory, and we will ensure they are respected.
Ecuador is preparing to hold general elections in early February, and our correspondent in Quito, Denise Herrera, brings us a profile of one of the presidential candidates.
Indigenous leader and environmental activist Yaku Sacha Perez Guatambo was born on February 26, 1969, in Ataki parish of Cuenca Cantón. His name was Carlos until 2018, when he decided to change it to one that represented his personal struggle. Yaku, meaning water, and Sacha, meaning jungle. Among his campaign proposals are the renegotiation of oil contracts, a popular consultation to declare Ecuador free of extractive exploitation, the return of large-scale mining to the state, and constitutional reform, among others.
The human right to water must be protected, and in my government we will call for a popular consultation so that you will be the ones to decide at the ballot box about the exploitation of mining and water resources. Your decision is fundamental.
Yaku graduated as a lawyer, although his degree is not registered with the National Secretariat of Higher Education. What is registered are the 4 postgraduate degrees in watershed management, environmental law, indigenous justice, and criminal law. In the public sphere, Yaku was president of Equarunari, the Confederation of Peoples of Quechua nationality, from 2013 to 2019, and prefect of Asua province between 2019 and 2020, a post he left due to his candidacy for the presidency.
We have clean hands. We don't owe anything to any bank, or to corruption, or to drug trafficking. We owe everything to the people.
Yaku became one of the biggest opponents of former President Rafael Correa and was detained several times. In the 2017 elections, he declared that a banker is preferable to a dictatorship. He defines himself as close to a flexible, open left, and has also said he does not believe in capitalism or socialism or communism, but in communitarianism. His candidacy is one of several representing the indigenous movement.
Denise Herrera, teleSUR, Quito, Ecuador.
In Peru, health unions rallied in front of the health ministry headquarters for the 10th consecutive day. Union reps have stressed that the national government has not complied with the implementation of the third salary increase scheduled for the month of January 2020. The pay rise was an agreement between the national government with the health professionals in 2020 after widespread protests. Health workers are also denouncing a lack of COVID-19 tests for the medical personnel, in addition to warning of the high rate of hospital bed occupancy throughout the country. Hundreds of demonstrators have taken to the streets of Tunisian cities to protest police repression, corruption, and poverty. This follows several nights of unrest marked by clashes and arrests. Saturday's protests come as the North African nation struggles to stem the coronavirus pandemic, which has crippled the economy and threatened to the overwhelmed hospitals. The government on Saturday extended a nighttime curfew from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. and banned gatherings until February 14.
Because 10 years ago, there was the greatest theft of the revolution from the Tunisians and their demands committed by the Islamists.
We want to build a new consciousness, not the one they are financing through TV channels. We won't allow that anymore. It is over. We are fed up with it. We can't take it anymore. Basta.
Malawi has appealed for help from the United Nations and other international organizations to combat COVID-19 as cases continue increasing. The government has already declared a state of national disasters in all districts after the country lost 2 cabinet ministers on the same day due to COVID-19. New confirmed cases have risen by 163% and deaths by 135% for the month of January alone. Security forces have been deployed in several cities to enforce measures to reduce the spread of the virus. Tropical storm Eloise has developed into a cyclone and has made landfall in the Mozambican port city of Beira, leaving a trail of destruction along its path. Eloise dumped more than 300 millimeters of rain in just 36 hours, causing widespread flooding in the region that was hit hard by Cyclone Eloise in 2019. The government on Thursday placed rescue teams on high alert and urged citizens living the flood-prone areas to evacuate. Cyclone Eloise killed more than 1,000 people across Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe 2 years ago. Libya's rival groups have started a new round of talks in Morocco. Representatives from the Tobruk-based House of Representatives and from the Tripoli-based High Council of State are gathered in Morocco's city of Rabat for talks and aim at finding a solution to a decade-long conflict. Discussions between the two sides includes appointments to the Electoral Commission, the Central Bank, and the Anti-Corruption Commission. And the coronavirus pandemic has forced Jordanian children into labor market. With the economic fallout and schools closed for nearly a year due to COVID-19, experts are seeing a rise in minors working to help feed their families. The UN Children's Agency UNICEF said it believed many Jordanian children had been forced into precarious work since the pandemic began, despite being forbidden to employ those under 16. Some 76,000 children were already working in the country, according to the last official count published in 2016.
Since COVID-19 began, the schools are shut. So Jordanian and Syrian children are coming to us. They come to make some money. Shop owners only load the carts of children, not the ones of adults. The children are the only ones who work at the market.
I don't want the corona pandemic to affect my studies, as I want to finish them to become a pilot and make my dream come true.
We'll take a short break now. More news after this. Welcome back. The Dutch government has implemented a nightly curfew to the first such restriction since World War II to curb coronavirus infections. The curfew is effective between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. and during these hours only people with pressing needs can leave their homes. Exceptions include medical emergencies, people who need to be outdoors to carry out essential jobs, and walking of pets on a leash. Violators can be fined over $100. The government has also imposed a ban on flights from South Africa, Britain, and all of South America, a move which is largely intended to target new infectious variants of the disease.
I think they should be really cracking down more on things like people traveling to and from work and breaking the corona rules outside of the evening, because in the evening not many people go out. The only people who do go out are like me and my friends who all live on our own, and we're stuck inside doing nothing without being able to have social contact. So,
thousands of people in France have taken to the streets in the capital Paris to protest against looming job cuts. Demonstrators including members of the Yellow Vest movement, labor unions, and political parties, blame the government for allowing companies to retrench people amid the pandemic. They also denounce low salaries and poor working conditions.
I am a postman. Postal workers earn 1,300 or 1,400 euros after 10 to 15 years. How do you manage to live in the Paris region? Can you imagine what it means to be without a salary? So these redundancy plans, we are reaching almost 1 million job losses. It's just something that has to be stopped. And we know that we cannot count on those who generate these redundancies, who generate this crisis just to maintain profits, to solve the situation.
The voluntary vaccination program against the COVID-19 pandemic in Serbia has received over 400,000 online applications in a few days since its launch on Tuesday. The authorities have simplified the website layout for the vaccination application, only requesting information of name, address, identification number, and personal contact. Having received 1 million doses of the Chinese Sinopharm vaccine, Serbia has prioritized vaccinating the elderly people and those from high-risk groups. Health officials said on Friday that 40,000 vaccinations have been delivered nationwide as the infection rate of coronavirus in Serbia has reached 30%. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said there was some evidence of the new coronavirus variant first discovered in the UK could be linked to a higher death rate.
We've been informed today that in addition to spreading more quickly, it also now appears that there is some evidence that the new variant, the variant that was first identified in London and the South East, may be associated with a higher degree of mortality. And I'm going to ask Patrick in a minute to say a bit more about that, because it's largely the impact of this new variant that means the NHS is under such intense pressure.
China has kicked off a campaign in Beijing to test 2 million people in 48 hours as officials in the capital rush to track down a new local cluster of coronavirus cases. Long queues snaked through Beijing, which reported 19 coronavirus infections in the past week as the mass testing campaign got underway in Dongcheng and Xicheng districts. Officials have said that some of the cases detected are in Beijing are linked to a variant of the deadly pathogen that was first found in the UK and is believed to be more transmittable. Meanwhile, thousands of Hong Kongers were ordered to stay inside their homes on Saturday for the city's first coronavirus lockdown as authorities battled an outbreak in one of the poorest and most densely packed districts. The order bans about 10,000 people living in 16 buildings in the Yaoxing Mong district from leaving their apartments until all residents are tested. Officials say they plan to test everyone within 48 hours in order to achieve the goal of 0 cases in the district.
In this area, there are high risks to public health, especially in terms of environmental risk and risk of infections. And our assessment is that several buildings here have problems with their sewage systems.
Sri Lanka's health minister, who was faced criticism for consuming and endorsing a herbal syrup against the virus, has tested positive for COVID-19. The health ministry confirmed that Pabrita Wanyaraki became the highest ranking official to be infected with the virus. She and her immediate contacts have been asked to self-quarantine. In December, thousands of people gathered in long queues in the town of Kigali to obtain the syrup allegedly made by a sorcerer after Wanyarikani and several other government officials publicly consumed it. Doctors have said there is no scientific basis for the syrup and remedy for the coronavirus. Sri Lanka has so far reported nearly 53,000 cases with 278 fatalities. United States President Joe Biden warned on Friday that the number of coronavirus deaths in the country was expected to surpass 600,000 and urged government to move fast on his $1.9 trillion plan to battle COVID-19, provide economic relief to struggling citizens.
Today, I'm signing an executive order that directs the whole of government, a whole of government effort to help millions of Americans who are badly hurting. It requires all federal agencies to do what they can do to provide relief to families, small business, and communities. And in the days ahead, I expect agencies to act. We have the tools to get through this. We have the tools to get this virus under control and our economy back on track. And we have the tools to help people. So let's use the tools, all of them. Use them now.
Further, senior members of President Joe Biden's health team say they hope vaccine supplies will increase in the coming months as the U.S. seeks to control the spread of the virus.
Pull out the stops when it comes to increasing supply. We know that from the conversations with companies that the supply will increase over the coming months as they bring more and more production online for the Pfizer and for the Moderna vaccine. It is possible that another vaccine may come into the mix. If the Johnson & Johnson vaccine or if the AstraZeneca vaccine come through with strong data and they're authorized by the FDA, then we could see more vaccine from them on the market.
That science and truth is going to rule. And when and Vivek just sort of alluded to that, we don't have everything perfect right now, and we are going to make some missteps. But when we do make missteps, what we're going to do is try and correct them. We're not going to blame anybody. We're not going to ignore them. We're not going to make out that they're going to disappear. We're going to try and fix them.
And legendary U.S. television host Larry King has died at the age of 87 during his 6-decade career, which included 25 years of hosting his own nightly program in CNN. King interviewed many of the most famous political leaders, celebrities, and sports people of the day. He conducted an estimated 50,000 honor interviews with guests, including everyone from the Dalai Lama to Elizabeth Taylor, from Mikhail Gorbachev to Barack Obama, Bill Gates to Lady Gaga. He won countless awards, including the Peabody Award for the Excellence in Broadcasting for both his radio and television shows. No cause of death has been given, but King contracted COVID-19 in early January and received supplemental oxygen before being moved out of intensive care. We come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. And don't forget to join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Thank you for watching.